I don't have that. 428. 428.
Okay, October the 22nd, work session of the Elizabethtown City Council. Tony Bishop will bring the invocation.
May we pray. Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for all your blessings. Thank you for this community that we live in and the employees that work here, that takes care of our community and service. We ask that you be with us this day. We ask that you be with the meeting, guide us, lead us, direct us in the way that you would have us to go. In the Son's name we pray.
Amen. Join us in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Damon Barnes, are you going to talk about green space?
I am. Hello? All right, so I'll get my notes real quick. So the first thing is unfortunately not happy news, but I feel like I'd like to let everyone know if they missed that earlier this month, one of our founders and an absolute icon for our organization, Ed Sprague, passed away. Ed and his wife, Mary, they're the reason Green Space exists. So, it was a tough loss for us, for sure, for the family. I've spoke with the family several occasions now. They definitely would like to do something to honor both their parents, but right now they're not sure exactly what they want to do. I know that our organization is pretty committed to something. We've thrown a few ideas out, but they're grieving. We're grieving, so. But I just wanted people to know, if they had missed, that unfortunately Ed passed earlier this month. So the next thing, when I was here, 3 months ago, I talked. One of the big things that we're trying to do is signage and maps. A lot of people, it doesn't help if you have trails and no one can either follow them or knows where they're at. So happily, they're starting to get up. We have the Cardinal Creek and all the adjoining trails. We have that one up at the Cardinal Creek that we will be opening soon. And then the Freeman Lake Trail, those started going in, I believe it was the week before last. And here by the end of the month, we should have them at every trailhead. But if you haven't seen them, here they are. Here's an actual map. They're metal. And the plan is every system, or in the case of Freeman Lake, when it just warrants being its own trail, we'll have a map. They'll all be the same style, so it's easily identifiable. Do you have a question? Oh, I thought you had a question. Okay. But so thankfully those are getting up, and hopefully by the end of the month, we'll have them all at Freeman. After that, we're going to finish the trails that are like Bound Shaw that are associated with Cardinal Creek, Briarwood, and then we'll shift to the nature park. So we're kind of saving the last bit will be the downtown trails in Buffalo Lake. So that comes to the next thing. So we've been working quite a bit over the last 2 months. A group of mountain bikers especially, led mainly by David Haynes, have been coming out and really putting a lot of work into Buffalo. Ed came out the other day and he got to see some of the improvements we've done. One of the things is trying to make it where the loop around Buffalo is very accessible to not complete beginner, just a slight step up from Freeman Lake. But that way you can kind of progress your skills as you go, but you don't want it so difficult that not many people can use it. And, the traffic's growing. They've actually, with our help, they've been putting the trails out on various apps, All Trails, MTB Project, and Single Tracks. And those are, when people are going down, they're planning their trips, myself included, they go to those apps and they look. And Freeman Lake and Buffalo are now on those apps. They hadn't been before. And also, one of the hopes is David is planning to, or is working on forming a NICA group, which is National Interscholastic Cycling Association, I think is what it is. In layman's terms, it's mountain biking for high school and middle school kids. Tennessee has a league. Kentucky's starting to form a league. Bowling Green, Barron County, several of the Louisville schools already have teams, and they're competing in neighboring states because Kentucky doesn't have a league yet. But Dave has been actively working, so I think Buffalo is kind of where he's looking at to have the training ground. So that way, any kid that comes out, they have something that they can do. So like I said, that's one of the reasons Buffalo's last, because we're doing a lot still out there. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to dump money into a map until it's kind of closer to complete. So I mentioned earlier Carmel Creek. So happy to report that trail is pretty much done. Aaron Rucker's actually out there right now. We had a group of around 15 yesterday. We're shooting for probably the 7th or 8th of November to have a grand opening of that trail. It's the trail that's new. It starts behind the county government building and ends right there on Patriot Parkway. And all you have to do is cross Patriot Parkway, you get to Bound Shaw, and as the maps at the trailhead show, you can connect to various trails and get about, I don't know, 7 or 8 miles out of it. So the last thing to talk about is what's on everyone's mind, bridges. So as we all know, Matt Deneen authored a grant in partnership with State Farm to for $25,000 to help with Greenspace contribution to the bridges at Freeman Lake. At Greenspace, the tourism and city, of course, are looking to replace. If you don't know by now, we did get the bridge. So round of applause. Big thanks to Matt and then all the State Farm agents that helped with that, and then especially the community as a whole. The amount of people that voted, I mean, I was shocked. You had to be top 40? Yeah, top 40 to receive it. We were going up against places like Baltimore, you know, really big places, and little OE Town got the grant. So the State Farm agents are here to present the check, and that's all I have. Matt?
Mr. Thomas, Mr. Wyman, we're really glad to see you.
Thank you. State Farm did ask me to just say a couple things so you kind of understand what this is all about. So State Farm has put together this grant project to try and help life go right for the neighbors and customers in the communities where our agents live and work. And so by Matt's grant that he submitted, there's about 2,500 that get submitted nationwide. Out of that, they narrow it down to 200 that they think are worthy projects that they want to contribute this money to. And then it goes to the community to vote for the project and stay within the top 40. So after 167,000 people and 4.5 million votes for our area for this project, Matt Deneen and Greenspace is being presented with a $25,000 check. So great job.
I believe you.
Do you want the whole council?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we can do something like that.
So we want to go
Nobody can see you.
I'll get down on the floor. Then.
Tony, you want to get up on there?
I'll just get on the floor. What I usually do in Hey guys, good job. Good job. Can we look better for
I know. That's right. I'm
Special. Seth, going to tell us about the rest of the Parks and Recreation Department?
How are your trails?
Yeah, we're on a theme tonight, aren't we? Basically, I just wanted to give a snapshot, kind of an overview of Parks and Recreation to this point of the year. So I have a lot of figures and things that I'll present because I think that gives the best snapshot of what's going on and all the people that are impacted on a daily basis. But overall, Parks and Recreation is comprised of 11 parks. We have 27 full-time positions and over 175 seasonal positions. And they are broken down or assigned to 7 divisions. And those divisions are American Legion Park, the American Legion Water Park, Ballpark Maintenance, Freeman Lake Park, which includes the Nature Park, of course, Administration, Pritchard Community Center, and the Elizabethtown Sports Park. So I want to start with American Legion Park and kind of give an overview of the water park this year and what we did. This was the busiest season that we've had to date by far. To give you a comparison, last year we had 33,765 visitors that used the water park. This year we had 34,678, so we were up about 1,000 on that. Daily admissions, season passes, the party room rentals and private rentals were all up. And overall, the park took in $206,000 in change in income. So that was about $10,000 above what we did last year. The first year, to give you a comparison, of course, this will be in our 3rd season. First year, we were around 200,000. So that number, of course, fluctuates due to weather. Of course, this year, Fort Knox pool closed, so I think we saw some visitors from that. So there's variables that go into play there. But those figures also do not include the splash pad. That's a free place for people to come, so there's no way for us to track activity. But I can say that it's extremely busy. So that's kind of the American Legion Water Park. Another big aspect that we're involved with are the local sports programs. These take place at 6 different complexes. They take place at the Elizabethtown Sports Park, University Drive, Mike Carroll Soccer Complex, Gates Softball Complex, Ring Road Softball Complex, and Nicholas Street, where we do a lot of practice and things like that. We had over 2,800 participants that were involved in all the leagues this year, and the largest one of those was EYSA. They had over 1,600 participants. Next would be EABC. They had over 600. And then going down the list, we had the Heartland Fast Pitch Youth Softball, which was 125. The slow pitch at Gates, which was about 125 plus. EAYF, the local football, which was about 250. And then the cheerleading program, which was about 100 participants.
See, who was 16? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Who
The
was
1,600, that was the soccer, EYSA. So soccer continues to be the largest, and it's also one of it keeps growing every year. We definitely have a challenge as far as the facility space and stuff that we have, which that's the case in all of these parks. And if you get out there on a weekend, just try to find a parking spot, and it's next to impossible. But I wanted to break down sports a little bit more as far as the locations that these people played at and different things like that. Youth football plays 100% of their games at the Elizabethtown Sports Park. The cheerleading program does 100% of their activity at the sports park. Heartland Fast Pitch played all but 2 evenings of games at the sports park. Recreational softball played 100% of their games at Gates. EABC played 100% of their games at University Drive. And EYSA, the 10U and up, played about roughly half of their games at the Elizabethtown Sports Park.
I mean, locals are using the sport park.
Locals are using the sports park. And they use it Monday through Thursday, free of charge, which they always have done that.
You want to repeat that one more time?
And also, high school tennis is a big part of the sports programs here locally. They used Freeman Lake Park, American Legion Park, and University Drive. We had over 1,000 participants in different tennis programs that participated. And there's 4 local high schools. Those are Central, John, North, and E-Town City schools that routinely use those parks for their high school events, tournaments, and different things of that nature. So that was kind of an overview of just the recreational sports side. I'll get into a little bit more of the tournament side with the sports park, but the sports park this year has hosted 54 tournaments to date. We have 5 more scheduled on the calendar. Of those 54 tournaments, we've had over 1,500 teams participate. And this year we've had over 35 states represented at the sports park. So our footprint there is huge. We actually have a map when you go in the sports park, when you come in to the office, and right now we have 42 of the 50 states that have been represented at the sports park. And that's from the time that we opened to this date. So pretty impressive. One thing, this year was a challenging year. As we all know, we've had 2 feet of surplus rain. So it had impact on cancellations. So that number, it's actually down a little bit because of those cancellations. We actually started the year 0 for 5. We were kind of stressed out a little bit because the first 5 events got canceled just because we could not get a break with the rain and the weather and the snow and all of that stuff. So switching gears to Freeman Lake Park, I want to give you just kind of a quick snapshot of that. Total pavilion rentals this year, we've had 331. Total boat rentals, we've had 3,262, and this includes kayaks, paddle boats, and other watercraft out there. We've had 1,603 fishing permits, and Freeman Lake is also involved in a lot of events. We've had 11 city events that we will have been involved with this year, and those are different ceremonies, Memorial Day, 4th of July, movie nights, wine festival, etc. And we've also had 11 5K walk runs that we've hosted out at the park. So a very busy place. Go out there on the weekend and it's booming. Switching gears again to the community center. This kind of blew my mind when I tallied up these figures earlier today. We've had 776 total reservations, and that's room rentals or a reservation for a gym or different things to this point. And looking at the calendar, we'll have roughly 1,000 by the end of the year. We've had about 8,000 check-ins, which that includes basketball, weight room, racquetball, tennis. And as you all have seen and the community has seen, the Arboretum has gone some pretty drastic changes and renovations, and we're trying to figure out ways to capture visits that we have there, but it's definitely grown in popularity. Just a couple of side notes that I didn't really hit on within those. The par 3 course continues to see numerous players, and the course looks great. It looks phenomenal, the best that I've seen yet. Funtopia continues to attract many, many visitors every year, into the thousands. It's not uncommon for there to be bus loads of kids to be brought in to use Funtopia. We've seen an increase of traffic due to the Vietnam Wall. We continue to assist with the program and concert series at the State Theater as far as the setup and tear down. And we also continue to assist with the setup and breakdown of downtown events, Tavern in the Garden, things like that. We're getting ready for Christmas in the park, so we're kind of in a transition right now in seasons, but last year we had over 40,000 cars that came through the park for that program, so I think this is going to be another phenomenal year. And then we've got, as you all know, numerous construction and renovation projects going on, in addition to the upkeep and maintenance that we do on a daily basis. So again, I think, I know that's a lot of figures, but I think when you throw figures and put numbers to things, it really shows what's going on. I definitely want to say thank you to the staff. Could not do this without them. And I know we have a lot of seasonal people in the department, but if we did not have the seasonal employees that we do, there's no way that we could do what we do on a daily basis. And last but not least, I do want to thank all the other departments in the city because we're all one big family and we're one big team. We could not do this without everybody else involved. So this is definitely not a Parks and Recreation show operation by any means, but these are just some of the pieces that we've been involved with. So that's what I got. Y'all
And
have any
you're right,
questions?
you and your staff do a phenomenal job and stay so positive. And remember when I took this job and I told you, you made Freeman Lake Park look like Disney World. No, I'm sorry, the sports park. And it was so clean and everybody was so happy and they were so friendly and they were so welcoming. And I said, oh my gosh, our parks are tired. We got to do something. And it's taken a few years, but we're finally getting new buildings and new entrances and your crew have worked so hard. I mean, the golf course is just, oh my gosh, great. Everybody has just thrown in together and it's coming along. But you were talking about the usage. And do y'all remember last year when Charlie came up with a list of what, 7 places that we might properties have for another park? 10. Well, I only worried about the 7.
She'd like 3 of you.
No. Remember, we narrowed it down. We all narrowed it down to number 1. I'm urging you, I'm on my way out, and I'm telling you guys, you gotta buy that. If you're still here next year, you gotta buy that, and you gotta do another park, because, I mean, every weekend, yeah. Suddenly, not just the weekends, you know?
Definitely, and it's a quality of life. I know we've heard that term used
It is.
constantly lately, but it truly is a quality of life experience for people. And again, I thank you guys. Big thanks to my staff. We could not do this without everybody's participation. So it's all hands on deck.
Thank you.
Seth, thank you for your leadership. We have been good parts for the direction of the mayor.
Gosh, yeah.
Thank you
Wow.
for your leadership.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, and speaking of parks, Janet Clark.
I have a park to talk about.
You do, amazing.
I'm not used to this room, so. I've been asked to give you all an update on where we are for our request for qualifications for our management company to take over the operations of the sports park. To get everyone kind of to where we are today, briefly, if you'll recall, last summer, we entered into a lease agreement. It was signed between tourism and the city for tourism to seek management for the sports park. Right after that happened, we distributed an RFQ in our marketplace, which different from an RFP where we haven't necessarily accepted proposals. We were just looking for firms that were capable of and had the qualifications to take over an operation of this size, because we knew it would be a small select type of company. So that happened in July and then in August. We did quickly within the industry start receiving a lot of phone calls, a lot of inquiries, most of them not even realizing what we were really looking for. And then when they realized the totality of the project and the size of this project, most phone calls helped to kind of weed some people out as far as their qualifications to run the sports park. However, we have, the end result is a handful of several companies that have officially submitted responses to us. And we asked within our RFQ, all of those companies that wanted to submit a formal response to do a site visit here. We had several companies take advantage of that. They came and toured the park. They met with the transition team, which includes Seth Breitner, Jason Daly, the manager of the sports park, representatives from tourism, and then Ed also serves on that transition team, even though he wasn't part of the site visit visits that we held in September. Those responses were officially due to us October 11th. We did receive 3 formal responses to our RFQ. Since October 11th, I have distributed the written responses to the Tourism Commission and the transition team. They will be evaluating those responses at their November board meeting. And at that time, they'll create their next steps. So their options, of course, are to decide which companies they'd like to bring in for face-to-face meetings and interviews. And then once one company is chosen, they'll enter into a contract negotiation with that company. Our goal is still to have something in place by the end of the year. We've asked for transition plans from all of them, and all of them are capable of that. I will tell you just my own commentary of this process. I'm extremely pleased of where we are right now. We were a little bit behind schedule, and we've caught up to that. And I do think we'll have something solid in place. I'm pleased with the quality of the responses that we received. They came from companies that we expected, that we wanted to get interest from. It's a large order, and it's not going to be an easy project for anyone, but I'm super pleased at where we are. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
You said you had 3 responses, 3?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we're not taking any more, we're just looking at those 3.
Mhm. We do have within our RFQ that the process is that if we go through this process and don't like any of them, we have the ability to go back. But I will tell you that I feel really good about what we've gotten. I mean, we have a ways to go, but we're in a good spot.
Yeah, you said you feel good about what we've got. You're talking about the number or the 3?
Both.
The quality of the 3?
Both. Really more about the quality. We knew there weren't going to be very many people out there. It's just not something that is common enough for a lot of people to be able to do. So
you were happy with 3?
both the quantity and the quality of what we have. Yes, sir.
Ken, is the thought that after commissioners have reviewed this, that after November board meeting, that you all would have a recommendation which one to go forward with that?
It's up to them, Marty. I mean, their plan is to discuss it at their November meeting and kind of come up with their plan.
If all 3 are acceptable, it seems like their plan would be to get proposals from all 3 and then weigh the proposals against each other. If all 3, all things equal. I'm not on the transition period. Seems like that's what the appropriate steps would be.
Well, they haven't even had a chance to discuss them in a meeting yet, so yes.
Right.
Thank you all. Thank you for letting me give that update.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have Mr. James Jeffries and Mr. Dana Talley from the Water District Number 2.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council and members of the staff and DD, of course. It's a pleasure to be here on this occasion. So 12 and a half years ago when I joined the district, there was a conversation about offering wastewater services out in the unincorporated parts of the county. So I'm really pleased to report that a project is funded and under construction. $12.2 million worth of contracts were let for the sewer project in Glendale. And I can report that we are about 50% complete with the construction part of this phase. So there's 100 or so customers, businesses, commercial customers, and residences, and obviously the enabling of the industrial park. So the big news there is that the industrial park that is in Glendale will be able to offer wastewater services to a potential client at the mega site there about 1 year from today. So we're on our way to the final answer and to having a real solution. You know, Charlie and I have been working on this long-range recycling program here in the county by which the city collects wastewater and stormwater. It goes in the river, meanders down to White Mills. We pull it back out and send it back north. And so this is an expansion of that. I almost didn't get it done before Charlie retired, but I'm happy that we're to this point while he's still in the room. So this project is enabled and is only possible through the cooperation with the city of E-Town. So the grant in itself is for a collection system, and it just covers the expenses of a contract to just do a collection system. And it doesn't come anywhere close to presenting enough funds to talk about treatment. And so without the cooperation of the city's water treatment plant on Gaither Station Road, it's just an idea. But as we are here with a potential partnership, then this is a real solution for the mega site, for the citizens of Glendale, the I-65 interchange. So what we have on the table is a draft of a wholesale arrangement for the city of E-Town on behalf of the district, to treat wastewater from our collection system. Mr. Talley, our counselor, our longtime counselor, longer than I've been with the district, is here to talk about any of the legal questions and to talk about the language. I'll say from my perspective with the staff, that this is a near perfect contract at this point from our standpoint. We have a little bit of tweaking we want to do with the billing cycle just to take care of, but in essence and in philosophy, the contract is good. We plan to show it to our board. They saw a draft format in October. We expect them to take up the finishing touches and maybe for final approval in November. So I'll let Damon, our counselor, Mr. Talley, talk about the details of the contract.
Thank you, JJ. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members, and Dee Dee too, and Ed. Strange to see you there at the table, but I'm not going to go into the real nuts and bolts and all the details of the contract. One of the contracts is about 15 or 16 pages long, but I want to thank your staff, Charlie, Ed, Tom, Corey, and I'm sure some other people have looked at it, Dee Dee, that I do not know about, but they've been great to work with. There are really two agreements that we're talking about. The first one is the control authority agreement, and that's a simple one. It kind of goes into the day-to-day, the mechanics of how the two systems are going to work together to make sure your sewer use ordinance is complied with, because we can't do anything with the wastewater when it's collected from the I-65 interchange or from the restaurant in downtown Glendale. Once we get it, all we can do is pump it to you. So your folks have to make sure that we know what we're getting so that it's compatible with your system. So that's the number one. That's what the control authority agreement does. It's a simple one. And the two staffs have worked that out, and our board actually approved it at our October board meeting, and the Division of Water, don't know how you've got to do it so quickly, but they have approved it. So now it's appropriate for the council to take action on that, presumably at your next meeting. That's the simple one. The other one is the big agreement that I've got here. And I'm just going to highlight a few things in that, most of which you probably already know, but I'll highlight a few things in that, and I'll answer any questions that you have on the wastewater agreement. The term of it is 30 years, and then there's automatic renewals in there, so that at the end of 30 years, if neither party wants to change it, it'll automatically be renewed for another 10 years. And then at the end of that time, it can be automatically renewed again. But after the term or any renewal term, either party can say, wait a minute, we need to tweak this or make some changes. Of course, the rates are something were negotiated a few years ago. It's a wholesale rate of $2.46. And of course, as we discharge more sewage or more wastewater to your Valley Creek facility, the rates go down, but presently $2.46 would be typically what it would be. The service area is important. It's just the Glendale service area, for instance, because the rate assumes that the district is going to pump the wastewater to your Valley Creek facility and deliver it to you and discharge it to you upstream right there at the Valley Creek facility. So we will not be using any of your pump stations, any of your collection system. So we're not taking up any of that capacity. So we'll be delivering it to you at your front doorstep down there. So that's why we got the good wholesale rate. And I mentioned the discharge. Then this big agreement also dovetails on the sewer use ordinance. There's provisions in both agreements that says that if we allow a customer to connect and they're discharging something that violates your sewer use ordinance, we have to turn their water off. Of course, that turns the wastewater off. So that way it's I guess double knotted there. Another thing is the industrial users. I think already your staff have already talked to almost all of our commercial users out at I-65 interchange. They know what kind of wastewater they're discharging and whether it's compatible with your treatment plant or not. But then this agreement also says that before we even talk to a suspect in the mega site down there, there'll be 3 people at the table: the industry, E-Town, and us, because you folks are going to have to decide whether their characteristics of their flow is compatible with your wastewater treatment plant and whether you can accommodate the volume that they'll have. So And we'll have a separate agreement for any of those industrial customers, and you'll be right at the table from the get-go about that. Now then, although it has nothing to do with this agreement, some of you have asked, what are our rates going to be? Are our rates going to be the same as E-Town rates? Don't think that's possible. We, at our last board meeting, the board voted to request the Public Service Commission for our retail rates for wastewater to be $30 minimum bill. Yours are dirt cheap compared to that, $30 minimum bill, and then $10 1,000 for each 1,000 over the 2,000. So if you use 4,000 gallons, which is what the average residential customer uses, that would be $30 minimum for the first 2, and then another 10, and then another 10. So that would be $50 would be the what the average customer would do. Of course, if they're don't use much water, $30 would be all that they would, their wastewater bill would be. The timeline. Okay, we're hoping that the council will be comfortable with the agreement and that you can adopt it and approve it at your November 5 council meeting. And of course, I'm sorry.
Some of the members have said they haven't seen it.
Actually, the update that we gave you all a couple of weeks ago at the work session, Charlie and Corey went over everything with you all. The council has already passed a municipal order that says that agreement is approved and work out all the details with through the staff. So we'll be providing you all that copy. We just wanted Damon and JJ to bring you all up to date on where we are in the process. Today, we've got final drafts from them on Friday, so we'll provide you all with copies of all that information in the next week or so. The one that you will need to take action on is the control authority agreement. And again, we'll provide you all with all the final copies on all that information.
It would have probably been a little bit more helpful though if we could have had that.
Let me ask you,
Sewer's already gone out.
are the Glendale residents aware of the cost of the sewage?
Yes, they are. From the very get-go, we estimated and we told them at all the public meetings that it would not exceed a certain level. As it turns out, it's going to have to be at that level. And those rates will be up to the Public Service Commission to approve. And we're asking that those rates be set for the first 2 years, and then we're keep our fingers crossed. And if we have, as industry come in and the usage goes up, then we can spread our fixed costs over that and reduce that rate, or at least keep it from going any higher. But as of right now,
I've asked this question before. They do have an opportunity to opt out.
yes, they're governed by the county's sewer use, the sewer ordinance. And I believe the way it is that if their septic tanks are working, they do not have to hook up to it. Is that you want to address that?
The way I understand that the county ordinance is if you're within 300 feet and you have a new application for a commercial, you must hook up. If you have an established residence that has a working septic system, you do not have to hook up. There's no mandatory hookup. Yeah, as Damon was mentioning, if you're in a compliance situation with the health department, you might be required to hook up as a part of mitigation of that compliance. But as far as just because the line comes through, folks have to hook up, that is not true. That is, the rule is you don't have to. It's the exception where you're mandated to hook up.
James, what timeline do you see recouping the cost of what was a $12 million investment for the pipeline? And how long do you think that you'll be able to recoup that cost?
Well, it's 12.2 worth of construction. The entire project is $16.6 million is the asset that's going to go on the books. And I can't answer that. It's going to be volume driven by customer base. If we have a large industrial customer come to the Glendale mega site, then we're just one customer away from paying it all off in a short period of time. However, if nothing ever comes to the industrial site, we're kind of betting on the aggregate growth of the interchange. And I think for sure that this sewer system is going to enable development at the interchange. That's a safe bet. but just the residential growth in Glendale never makes this project worthwhile. It's going to take commercial and industrial activity to make this asset pay off.
I guess my concern is if this doesn't pan off economically as you think, is this going to drive up the water rates for the Town City residents?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And, you know, the really good news is the district wants the world to know is this was a gift from the Cabinet for Economic Development. So there is no debt service, DD, right? So we don't have debt payments to make. We don't have interest payments to make. It is a gift. So that is a very, very big benefit to the citizens of Glendale because the debt service is not based and not built into these rates that Damon had quoted here tonight. So next part of your question, I'm not sure.
Well, I said, was this driving up the water rates?
Oh, it can.
Yeah,
The answer is the PSC requires that these two businesses operate independently of each other. And actually, we're scrambling right now from a checking account, from a cash handling account, and from a software account, both in customer service and in accounting, to make sure that these accounts do not commingle. So they cannot support one of another, and they can't even mingle cash through the cash flow process.
And to follow up on that, two things. District's board from the very beginning, 4, 5, 6 years ago, however long it was, they said, we will not, cardinal rule number 1, water customers will not be paying for the sewer. Sewer has to stand alone. And of course, he could never have done it except for this $16.6 million grant from the state. Then the second thing is the Public Service Commission regulates the water district. We will have a water division, which we have now, which has to stand alone, and a sewer division, which will start once we start collecting revenues and collecting wastewater. And the PSC will make sure that water customers are not subsidizing the sewer customers. So, yes.
Question, Mr. Talley, on our wholesale rate?
Yes.
Is our wholesale rate locked in under your draft agreement for 30 years?
No, good question. It's 20, I think it's 2 years. I think it's 20. We won't start till sometime next summer, summer of 19. And I believe it's 2 years later. Then and it's based on the cost of providing that service. As your cost and expenses go up, then your wholesale rate can go up. And since you have a low interest loan through KIA, Kentucky Infrastructure Authority, that's part of your loan assistance agreement that your rates will be cost-based rates to reflect what your actual cost of providing the retail service and the wholesale service is.
So there is a mechanism in the contract.
Absolutely. It can go up. I think after the initial time, I think it can go up.
2021.
2021 is the date. Yeah.
If you were to go to the PSC and have an increase in your rates, is our wholesale cost based on a percentage of what you all are collecting, or is it strictly based on what our expenses are?
It's the latter. It's strictly based on what your expenses are. Now, under the law, since we're regulating with the PSC, let's say you go up 10%. Just say a quarter, 25 cents. We have the right under existing law to petition the PSC to pass that 25-cent increase along to our customers.
Where your spread stays the same.
That's right, our spread stays the same, yes, that is correct.
Okay, and is our cost right now, the wholesale cost, is the formula that's used, is that strictly to break us even? Or is that to break us even? Is that padded in?
I cannot answer that. I was not involved with that.
All in that, right? That rate was established with our costs and our overhead, equipment and all that.
Yes.
It was our business model.
Is it
Right.
break even?
Is that break even?
Is that a break even or?
It was a
is there
break
anything
even.
else?
No, break even.
No, it wasn't strictly break even, there was some recovery, future costs.
And what happens if we reach capacity? We have great things going on in Elizabethtown and we're using a lot of it, but then the mega site takes off. What happens when we,
In 30 years, we did not.
Well,
but what if it happened before
Well,
that?
if something like that, if manna falls from heaven, and
Right.
something like that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a 13 million gallon a day rated facility, and you're at 50% capacity right now. So we've got plenty of room for growth. Our usage initially, you know, if it rains, you know, is negligible, okay, to what you're treating today. But that's something, and again, as I said, in this agreement, it says that if we are approached by industrial customers before we can even get serious at talking to them, then you're going to be at the table. And if they're going to need 2 or 3 million gallons a day, then we can talk, and because we're going to be using up that capacity in there.
But within the capacity is also, it has to handle our growth.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, that's what I was trying to get at.
And Corey and Charlie, correct me, state requires us, once we get to 85% capacity to 80% capacity.
If y'all don't have any debt service, why is your rate so high? I mean, I live in the city of Etown, so it's not a concern to me, but.
You know, I was kind of explaining to the board, and if I was to be so lucky as to receive a $10 million gold-plated Porsche, I could not afford the insurance on it. And so if you keep in mind, this is sized for 3.6 million gallon per day capacity. So that's the capacity of our system. So it's a long way from filling up the wastewater plant, 3.6. But we're going to start out at some fraction, some very, very small fraction of that. And yet the maintenance and upkeep of the asset is still going to be sized for the ultimate capacity of it. So the number of pump stations that are there, and the property insurance and the electric bills and cost of chemicals for odor control, a lot of that ends up being fixed cost, not variable cost. A lot of the operational cost of this, we have to have an employee certified to do rounds and keep up with reporting, whether he's servicing 10 customers or whether he's servicing 2,000. So a lot of this is upfront loaded on fixed cost.
As I mentioned before, on the timeline, the control authority agreement was passed by our board, and I'm assuming that agreement will be presented to the council at your next meeting. Our body will take action on the big agreement, the wastewater treatment agreement, at our November 20 meeting. So you have 2 opportunities. You have the 5th or the 19th. So that any of these details we need to get together, we can get those resolved before our board meets on the 20th to take action. So that gives you plenty of time to look at it, and we'll be happy to come back again. And in the meantime, we'll be working with the staff to make sure that any concerns that you have after you've had a chance to look at the agreement, that they are addressed. Any other questions?
Thank you very much. When
Thank
you
you
come
very
back,
much.
make sure you bring Mike Dell and Mo Miller so we can question
Well,
them also.
They'll be coming for the formal
That's
voting
right.
session.
That's right. I told Mike, I said, we need to save you in reserve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike will come without me.
Okay, other than Ron Thompson.
I've got comments next week, but no, that's the 5th Monday.
Yeah, go ahead and make your statement.
Okay, just friendly. Don't worry. That's just friendly banter. Thank you all so much for coming. We're adjourned.